My name is Brian McGinnis. I'm here with Nicole Shimoni and Brian Travis, and I'm calling the Finance and Revenue Committee meeting to order on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 6:40 p.m. Are there any announcements? Okay, there is one, and there's a public hearing that's regarding the ordinance to amend sewer rates for 2025, and that will take place on December 18th. Are there any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move to reports. The director's report on monthly financials. Ms. Paul.
All right, good evening. If we could start with page 2, please. So for the month of November 30th, we started the month with 24,000,000 cash. We booked 2,452,173 in receipts. We spent 2,025,751, and we ended the month with an ending cash balance of 24,500,185 across all funds, restricted and unrestricted. Moving over to the summary of results, starting with pages 3 and 4, the general fund. Year to date, the general fund is sitting at a net income of 1,286,680. Looking on the revenue side, EIT continues to come in strong. We are projecting that this will beat our budget for 2024. Local services tax is doing very well. It is currently beating budget. Deed transfer tax is expected to meet budget for 2024. On the general fund revenues, I am projecting a shortfall in revenues by 107,000 in 4 major categories. Street openings of $40,000, ordinance violation housing of $13,000, mechanical permits by $10,000, and rental permits by $44,000. Looking on the expense side, we do have several line items that are overspent. We are looking at a budget overexpenditure and expenses of $197,000 in 6 categories. Police chief salary is expected to be overspent by $48,000, zoning by $15,000, consultants, public works by $15,000, legal other $84,000, and vehicle repair $35,000. While our ultimate goal is to have, the revenues outpace our expenses, I do want to note, and I have said it in the past, these are cash basis results. So cash coming in, cash going out. We won't be booking any accruals until the December 31st, and those will likely, affect these results. And it's also important to note that we have a very strong cash reserve to deal with these overtures. So if we were to take into consideration the line items that are overspent and the revenues that won't come in, we are projecting to post a 1 million net income for the general fund. Moving over to the sewer fund on page 8, year to date, the fund is at a net income of 1,549,539. Sewer revenues are beating budget, and this will help offset 4 categories in the expenses that are over budget: professional fees, overtime, service contracts, and utilities. And then finally, moving over to the parking fund on page 9. Year to date, the fund is sitting at a net income of $456,817. Parking ticket revenue is doing very well. That's currently beating budget. We are expecting meter revenue to beat budget. 2 line items that are trailing budget at this point in time are the parking garage revenue as well as lot revenue. And if I had my crystal ball at this point in time, I would expect that we won't meet budget on those 2 line items. On the expense side, overtime is overspent as well as enforcement software. Are there any questions?
Did you say we will not beat budget on the parking garage revenue?
Yeah, currently we have about $248,000 left to go, and we generally book around $150,000 in revenue each month. So I'm expecting that we may not meet budget on that line item.
Okay, thank you.
But so you're estimating garage revenue short about 100,000-ish,
Yes.
but meter revenue you're saying is up. Is it that corresponding 100,000-ish or no?
No, meter revenue, I'm expecting will meet budget. So I'm expecting to book at least another $60,000 in that line item for the month of December.
Okay. That's a ticket revenue is.
Ticket revenue is beating budget at this point.
So people should park in the garages so they don't get tickets.
Yes.
Yeah. That's our lesson for this evening, everyone. One overall question too, from a cash standpoint, we're still on target for your cash needs for the end of the year and everything to.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting that we'll do a little bit better than what I had spoken of a few months ago. I thought that we would end the year with about 2.5 million in the general fund. I believe we'll end the year with 2.7 million, which is really great. I mean, I've been here for over 20 years and we've never had cash reserves of that nature. So I think, that's a great sign of the administration that's in place and the department heads that work really hard.
That is great news.
Any further questions or comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, thank you, Barb, for that report. Let's look at the approval of the November 2024 minutes. Is there any objections, any public comments? Those meeting minutes have been approved. New business, and this is something that I brought up. Discuss impact fees on land development projects. And this is something I brought up to Sean about because we do have a fee in lieu. However, when it comes to some of these projects, you look at the hotel project, some of these other projects, that's going to require infrastructure updates. We already know that there's going to need for infrastructure updates on certain projects coming up. And the impact fee would help, I think, alleviate that. And that would help reduce the taxpayer burden. Again, provide financial support for infrastructure. And it could also go to improve public services such as our emergency responses. It could go to parks. And also it increases accountability between developers and the municipality, in this case, Westchester. So I just want to hear your thoughts about that. I know we currently don't have that, but I know a lot of other municipalities in Chester County do have an impact fee.
So last night, we discussed the core samples that we took from the roads around the former Wythe property. So we know that we're going to have to, there's going to be some engineering projects to store up. So something like this impact fee would go towards improving the roads to make it work for truck traffic, basically, is what you're.
Yeah.
Something like that would be an example.
Right. So for example, if we look at this hotel project, we're probably gonna have to pave that road over again around there, ensure that that infrastructure is going to be updated. Same thing with the Rubenstein's project. We already know we have a sewer project that needs to be connected as well. And that could help alleviate a lot of those concerns. And so I just want to welcome anyone else's comments. And
Yeah, so I guess the first question I had is it legal? I'm assuming it's legal if we're talking about it right here, that we've run it past Kristen and it's done elsewhere, so it's legal?
There are very specific, let me start by saying this is a problem every municipality struggles with. So think about a township like Upper Euclid. And Upper Euclid is a township that in the last 20 years has gone, and 30 years has gone under conversion of green space and farming to single-family housing development on quarter acre and larger lots. So how does a township like Upper Euclid deal with the fact that every year 200 new households are added to the township's roads, to the township's infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, parks infrastructure? So how do you manage growth? And it's in that context of growth management that there are various. It doesn't mean you can't have growth in a place like Westchester that's already built out. In that context of growth management, there are pretty narrowly defined fees that a municipality can charge a developer during the land development process. And those are spelled out in the municipality's planning code, which is Act 67. They cover two basic topic areas. We're all very familiar with one of them, and that is that you can require a developer to provide open space and recreation space commensurate with the amount of demand they're going to create and commensurate with a plan that you've developed for your municipality. So that's how our ordinance for the recreation and open space, and in the absence of being able to provide that, a fee in lieu of providing that. But the real thing that the applicant has to provide is under our ordinance, we went over it a lot the last month, is 5% of the gross tract area for open space needs and recreation needs. That's one thing that you can put in your code, and we've already put that in our code. The other thing that you are allowed to do under the MPC is a transportation impact fee. And much like the recreation open space fee, you have to do a study of the needs of your transportation system. That study has to be, there's professional standards it has to meet. It takes some time to do it. Has to be approved by the governing body. And then once that's in place, that sets up rules over which a new development has to pay into its, think of it this way, the new travel demands that the new development is creating, it has to pay into the municipality, to pay the municipality to construct transportation improvements in the municipality to handle that demand, because there's a very strict rule in land development that you really can't tell a developer to do anything off of their property. In other words, you can't tell me to go fix a traffic light 3 blocks away from where my property is, but you can have them pay into a transportation fund of a certain determined amount to pay for that traffic light that they might need 5 years down the line if they're going to build 500 new homes in your jurisdiction. That's called a traffic impact fee. You have to do a transportation study for it. It takes a while, and it's sometimes called an Act 209 fee. Those together are the two impact fees directly attributable to the land development process that you can assess. We also have a sewer tap-in fee, which is not an impact fee. It's really, think of a sewer tap-in fee as saying to the new developer, the developer that's building new units, like on Rubenstein's, as of before Rubenstein's was proposed, you were generating, I'll throw a number out there, 5,000 gallons a day of sewage. Now that you're going to have 219 people living there, or 219 dwelling units there, you're going to be generating this many more thousands gallons. You're creating all this demand that we have to make sure we meet. You have to pay a tap-in fee for the aggregate cost of what it would take to snap your fingers and create a sewage system to treat all of that. And that's the elaborate process we go through to determine the sewer tap-in fee. So really a sewer tap-in fee is the I think a privilege, but the ability for that property owner to tap into your sewer system that others have paid for, that the municipality has paid for, that's pre-existing. It's not the same as an impact fee, but it sounds like it because it's money that gets transferred at land development, but it's not an impact fee that comes under Act 67. Those are the three main things that you can do. We're doing 2 of them. We don't do a transportation impact fee because we don't have a transportation study.
Okay, so we do the sewer one.
Long-winded, what's legal?
This is very good. Yeah, so we do the sewer one along, like, and yes, the fee in lieu, I'm well versed in at this point in my tenure here as Borough Council member. But, okay, so is your question then, do we want to add a transportation fee? Is that kind of where your head's going? Which maybe with the transportation committee, we've been
You know,
going to get started
and-
talking about this?
Right. So, and I think that would make sense, especially within the next couple of years. We're going to have about 1,000 new people in the borough, right? And so why not use that to update our transportation systems or, that infrastructure affiliated with the transportation?
I can give you two capital projects come to mind that have come to pass in my time in the borough. One of them is a closed loop signal management system that cost upwards of $800,000. We got a lot of that funded through grants. So it wasn't a lot of out of pocket for the borough to do. That's an example of a type of project that would benefit a town like Westchester that could be funded through an impact fee. Now, don't get too excited because that is an impact fee spread across the whole township. You're not going to come and ask the next developer to pay for the $800,000 improvement. You're asking the next developer to pay into a transportation fund their incremental demand that they're creating of transportation over the whole borough, as it applies to the projects you want to get done in your township, your municipality, according to the transportation plan. They got to pay their part for the demand they're creating.
To me, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's worth exploring a little bit more. I mean, I can't say let's do it right now without knowing, but it's definitely worth exploring if it is a tool that we can put in our toolkit and have available to us to support, especially because we've got a lot of, I know most of these big buildings, they're all grandfathered in, but there's probably one or two that might be coming along in the future that could, we could potentially benefit from if it makes sense. So how do we go about exploring this more?
Well, I would suggest if the committee is okay with this, we table this item to January, and I use the next few weeks to talk to our engineering team to kind of scope out and get more information about what an Act 209 study would look like in the borough. I have no idea. I have no idea what kinds of improvements they would identify. They can at least give me a rough idea of timeline, scope, cost to create the plan, and we can have a little more information to chew in January.
I'm in agreement with that.
Could we also, I know that there's not a lot of Westchester clones out there. We're kind of unique. But if we could also have maybe some examples of neighboring municipalities that already have this and what they charge, how it's used, I think that would be helpful.
I think what you're going to find, or what we're going to find, is that this is more common in townships like I just mentioned, Upper Euclid, your suburban developing townships. Limerick Township in Montgomery County had an Act 209. Hatfield Township did. If you've known what's going on in Hatfield in the last 15, 18 years with the development of the town center, core center there, that's their Act 209 process has paid for a lot of those transportation improvements. So too in, you can tell where I used to work now. Toa-Minson in Montgomery County had an Act 209. Smart thing to do in those growth-oriented townships, but I didn't want some advice on how it works in a place like Westchester.
Because we can't make our roads wider.
We're not building any roads.
Yeah.
Or making roads wider.
But
That
it
would
can
be
go up
counterintuitive.
to updating our roads, and would that be, and
Making them stronger. Yeah, like the fourth thing.
right.
It's a great question.
And,
Yeah.
and especially with the Wyeth property, right? Like someplace like that would benefit. High Street would benefit where there's a ton of traffic. Market Street where there's going to be, tons of traffic moving forward.
To the degree it instigates the borough to engage in planning process to think about what the future transportation system looks like, I'm all for that, because then that gives me an objective to direct our capital program towards and steps I can take in the meantime to get there. So that's a real good relationship, because then I know what your direction is at that point.
Great. I'm all for looking forward to this at January then. Any public comment? Seeing none, let's move to item B, motion to sponsor the CRC Watersheds Association 2025 cleanup. And it looks like this is approval of a $500 sponsorship here. Go ahead, Barb.
The only thing I wanted to point out is the last time that we paid for a sponsorship for this organization was back in 2020. In prior years, we did send Public Works employees to help out with the organization. So I just wanted to make sure that that had gone on record, that it's been quite a few years since this has been something we've sponsored.
And when we sent Public Works employees, obviously we're paying them.
Yes,
Okay. And it's probably going to be cheaper to do the sponsorship and
Yes.
send it.
yeah.
I'm okay with the sponsorship of 500.
I want to ask the question. I mean, this is probably the second sponsorship that we've seen. Like, are we going to start getting a slew of sponsorships, and are we prepared to make judgment on events and things with these sponsorship requests? That's the only question I have, because there's this, and then is there going to be a race and they want us to sponsor the race and because it's good for the community? Like, are we going to start getting all these things? And I don't want to be that person that has to judge whether it's an event worth sponsoring or not from the borough. I love this event. I did this event last year. I looked at this and I was like, oh, I might sponsor it myself. It's a good event. But as a borough, do we want to be in the business of making these types of judgments? And unfortunately, I would say no, because I'm afraid that we're going to have to, they're going to start coming and we're going to have to deny people and make judgments. And I don't want to do
Do
that.
we directly benefit from the cleanup of the watersheds?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do.
Then I'm for it. I mean, I take your point, right? You know, if it's a race or something along those lines, but I think the cleanup of the watersheds, I mean, to me, I look at that as like a no-brainer.
I think we should set some standards before that's just my thought. Like, what are our standards if people are going to start coming to us and asking for sponsorships?
I mean, this fits into our sustainability vision, right? I mean, why wouldn't this, I mean, this kind of fits with a lot of other things we're doing.
I didn't say that it doesn't seem like a great event. I said if we start getting these things and we're not prepared to have standards, we could start having to make judgments on things that we don't want to have to make judgments on. That's all. That I don't want.
I'm okay with it. It's $500. It seems like a rounding error.
Yes, there.
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. One, would we like to ask the university if they'd like to contribute for us? Two, I do see a $500 option. Thank you.
Yeah, so it would be for $500. That's what's mentioned here on the agenda. And I've been asking the university for a while now. Hopefully they could continue or contribute for that matter. So we could call this a 2-to-1 decision here.
Barb, can you get for me what we've sponsored and say, I don't know, the last 5 years, just like what we've done and how we've done it?
Yeah, I can put that together for you.
Thank you.
Item C, motion to approve resolution for real estate tax rate 2025.
We can do this by resolution because we're not changing the real estate tax rate, so it cuts down on our costs and makes it easier to pass. So this is the mechanism to set the tax rate.
Any comments? Any public comments? We could call this a 3-0 decision. Perfect. And motion to approve the 2025 fee schedule. And I know that there were some questions about that. And Barbara, if you could explain
Sure.
some of those changes and questions.
So we're just a few changes that we're making to this fee schedule. One of the issues or one of the things we'd like to put on here is the short-term rental fee for $44. And we have changed that to be consistent with the items above. So it will say short-term rental per unit of $44. The next item, we're adding the special event fee that was passed a couple months ago. That's under police, so we have $129 an hour for public works and $180 for police services. Moving down to public works, we're adding a new sidewalk permit fee of $30. A permit is required if you want to install or repair a sidewalk. This permit, it not only includes the permit fee, but the inspection for when the sidewalk is put in. And it's just to cover administrative time for the assistant as well as Mr. Anderson. And that's something that we have not charged for in the past. And then the last item that was not in your packet, but we made a change today. The last item under miscellaneous, we want to update the return check fee to include return check payment. We're not changing the amount that we're charging, but we are seeing some issues where we're getting payments for parking tickets and other items. People are paying with their credit card and then they call and dispute that charge. So we just want to make sure that we're covering that it says check as well as payment.
Thank you. And then the parking fee, right? That's still going to be evaluated. Is that correct?
Yes, we're still evaluating that. It's my understanding after talking with Ramsey today, there were some items that were brought up in committee last night that she needs to get some clarification on. So we're going to put that back on the committee for January, and then we should have a recommendation then.
Thank you. Any comments?
No?
Any public comments? Any objections? All right, we could call that a 3-0 decision. And this is coming up, a motion to approve the following items. I'm going to read them and then read what they are. And I believe that there are 2 items that were not listed on here.
Yeah, I have 2 items
And
for
I-
other
And I'll
business.
read them. Oh, okay, you want to put them on other business or you want to lump them all? Well, put them on other business to be correct.
Okay.
Wilson of Wallingford, 49,687 and 20 cents. And that's heating oil for wastewater. That contract is from 8/1/2024 to 7/31/2025. Universal Rackets for $11,088. That's end of summer and fall pickleball at Hoops Park. Univar Solutions, $13,155.25. And that's soda ash to treat Goose Creek wastewater facility. BSGI, that is for $14,980. That's door and key access for the Chestnut Street Garage. Then we have 2 items here. 10-8 emergency vehicle, $39,476.24. That's for upfitting 2 patrol vehicles for 2025. Another item, 10-8 emergency for $24,024.05. That's another upfitting here for a K9 unit for 2025. And then Johnson, Miriam, and Thompson, $64,000 each. And that's the consultant fees for the parks. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the pros plan. Yes.
Great, thank you. Any comments about items A through G? Any public comments? Any objections to approving them? All right, seeing none, they are approved. 2 other items we have, we'll put on.
So the first one I have
business.
is for USA Alco. That's for $12,540. That's for aluminum chloride hydrox sulfate for the Taylor Run plant. And then we have another big project. This is for the body cameras for the police department. This is a 5-year lease for $515,476.22. This is for 40 body worn cameras and the units that go with it. and this will be offset by a $250,000 grant. And this is budgeted for in 2025, and the money will be spent in 2025. And if you have anything to add.
Before Josh gets going, it's sorry to steal your thunder, but like the reason we're doing it this way is that we needed to wait until the budget got approved. And then we have a deal in place that the quote expires before the end of December. So that's why we're doing it. We're doing it now.
Yeah, that's right. And Barb said it better than I can, but if there's any questions, just because it's such a big number, I'd happy to answer. But again, more than half will be paid for over the 5 years. by
This was
grant.
full replacement, right? This was a replacement for all the body cameras?
Yes, it will
equipment?
replace all the existing body cameras that the officers wear. So 40 body cameras, 15 in-car video systems and cameras, and then the cloud storage and retrieval and evidence storage for all of that as well.
Yeah, I think we knew this was coming.
Correct.
I don't have any questions.
Any public comment? Any objections? Seeing none, we call that 3-0. Is there any other business underneath other business? Okay, seeing none, we can adjourn at 7:10. Thank you.
I